through, but of course this will be a harder pass because it's a Mercedes he's got to get past now. This is a different brand, but look, he's got the better traction out of the corner, he's got the faster tyre, and through he goes, and there's not much Petrov can do there to retaliate.
No, so moving up the order now is Tomczyk. Next it's going to be Jamie Green that is up against, so there we're watching Tomczyk on lap 30 of 49 here as Tombe and Joey Hand there, and Bruno Spengler as well.
I know that Tomczyk's in traffic, but he's only lapping 3/10 quicker than Wittmann, who in theory is on the slower tyre. This brings me back to the point I made early on about Tomczyk being 17th on the grid, and therefore that car not being as quick anyway. In terms of his lap time, he's not exactly hacking into the gap to the race leaders. He will gain some ground. This shows you the fastest of the pit stops, slightly over the 26 seconds we were bargaining on. 27.6 to Resta. Antonio Felix da Costa, the second fastest stop. Augusto Farfus, the third. See that Bruno Spengler lost a lot of time, not only because it was a slower stop, but also because he pitted a bit later and therefore lost track position anyway. So he got a sort of double blow out of that. Tomczyk's target is going to be 8th place. He has got 19 laps in which to make up 22 seconds, and he is 1.8 seconds quicker than Jamie Green, but he's not going to go storming up the order here.
No. So there, as we run through the slow-mos of the pit stops. So live gap for you between Wittmann and Mike Rockenfeller, 3.8 now. Marco Wittmann, who goes into this race leading the DTM Championship and leads this race by that 3.8 second margin over Mike Rockenfeller.
We've got one or two more under investigation, I notice now, haven't we? One of whom is Antonio Felix da Costa, because he and Joey Hand, both under investigation, both being reported to the stewards after that pit stop overtake. There is the Red Bull BMW third in the queue here, Antonio Felix da Costa, who is running on the back of Wickens, who's trying to make his move against Farfus here. Fairline's already got through, Wickens now goes through, Farfus has to give him racing room, and Felix da Costa, Antonio Felix da Costa, the Portuguese driver, should be up and past him as well now.
So this is a brilliant shot from Helly then, and Adrian Tombe buying into this as well, and he's going to go right through the middle here.
Fantastic move.
Oh, what a great drive from Adrian Tombe.
Trouble is, he's on the outside line and he's going to get run out wide there. Can he stand his ground on the inside? Bodywork goes flying and they touch, and Tombe elbows out in a very un-Tombe-like manner. That makes the place his, but the DRS and a double toe down the pit straight was really, really good for him.
So a little tap back from Antonio Felix da Costa, but Tombe, by remaining absolutely committed to that, and yes, there was some contact there, but well, he just, from our heli shot, you're able to see how he just dived through the middle and set that up to start. Felix da Costa tries to come back once again, but Tombe there as we go on board with Christian Vitoris on Maxime Martin.
You battle for 6th place, Mercedes ahead on merit, isn't it? So it's good to see the Mercedes looking a lot more competitive in this second half of the season.
So, and there we can see Bruno Spengler going past Antonio Felix da Costa into the NGK chicane. Joey Hand is sitting behind them, but look what Tombe has been able to eke out over those. Wittmann, our leader, is now 4 seconds to the good over Mike Rockenfeller. So there is what we were watching from the heli then. Adrian Tombe, there's Bruno Spengler, and here comes Antonio Felix da Costa and Joey Hand. 3 BMWs in a line there.
If things stay as they are, for the championship, Mike Rockenfeller would take 53 points as a total. Eduardo Mortara would take 56, and that would put him equal to Matthias Ekstrom. You could argue that Mortara is becoming a better bet now for Audi to offer its support to for the championship. It will be even better as you see a replay of the race leader getting it wrong at the chicane and heading up the escape road. So Marco Wittmann makes a small error. Just to finish my point, Do they want to get Mortara up into second place and give him more points and make him more of a threat in the championship? Now that's Wittmann recovering. What did that cost him? Not very much, in fairness. So Mike Rockenfeller is 3.9 seconds back. It cost him about 0.3 of a second, but that's not really enough to really trouble him. The fact that he made a mistake is rather more significant, and could it happen again?
Yes, we still have a significant amount of distance to do in the race. That was just a momentary lapse.
Yeah. But Mortara is lapping quicker than Rockenfeller.
Right.
And my intrigue now is whether they're going to let Rockenfeller hang on to second place or do a switch and put Mortara ahead, because that would make him second in the championship and try and get him up there in the title fight against Wittmann, because Ekstrom isn't going to score in this race.
No, and furthermore, on the balance of what happened in qualifying,
yes,
they've kind of got to do that, haven't they?
You'd have thought so. But the trouble is, Mortara is 6 seconds back, as you look at Tombay attacking Petrov now, and that gives him 12th place. Adrian Tombay is absolutely charging up the order, and there goes Spengler as well on the inside line. Take that, Petrov, he says. He's coming through as well. Trouble is for Audi, they've got to get Mortara closer to Rockenfeller, really. They can't do it quite so obviously with a 6-second gap between them. And Mortara hasn't got the pace to get closer at the moment. That's contact, that's Da Costa just tagging the back of Petrov.
Well, this will be really fascinating to see how it plays out, because Matthias Ekstrom, you're absolutely right, he's not going to score anything from this race, is he?
No.
And on qualifying pace, he was had done that was the little tag there from Antonio Felix Da Costa on Vitaly Petrov in replay. We're on board with Timo Glock. Yeah, in terms of qualifying performance, he did better than Ekstrom, didn't he?
Much.
So, therefore, surely you're going to put your efforts towards those that are performing best for you.
If Mortara finishes third, he's tied on points with Ekstrom. If he finishes second, he is 3 points closer in the championship to Wittmann.
It's as far as I'm concerned.
See where I'm going?
Yeah. It's not a question, really. It's what's got to happen.
So, let's see
how can it happen?
Exactly right. Farfus, Glock, Paffett here. Glock up the inside. Through he goes. Bear in mind that Timo Glock, of course, is now running on the option tyre, and so too is Gary Paffett. These two working their way up the order. Glock is now up into 17th, and Gary Paffett round the outside of Farfus. He's about to become 18th. It shows what difference the tyre makes, but again, I think the standard tyres lost too much early on. And of course, the other factor is that what we always see in these races are those you nominate after qualifying, so you know where you are on the grid when you make that call, and always it's those at the front who are the fastest anyway who go early on the option tyre. You're never seeing a quick car, particularly from the front of the grid, having to do it in that second stint, because they all want to get away early on.
Yeah.
So we're always looking at people who have perhaps been at the bottom end of the top 10, and it's no surprise that if you're only at the bottom of the top 10 in qualifying, you're not going to be a race winner because you've lost time early on. Anyway, what we have is Marco Wittmann now 4 seconds ahead, so after making that mistake at the chicane, he's regrouped and pulled away a bit.
You can see the order on the left-hand side of your screen. Those names that are in black running the prime tyre, those in yellow are on the second stint option tyres. This is our race leader, Marco Wittmann.
Now, Martin Tomczyk in his BMW is still catching Jamie Green. He's 14 seconds back, but he is closing. But I think he's going to be lucky to get in the top 6. And Augusto Farfus has had a pretty torrid race, and it looks as though it may well be the end. So in he comes, and Augusto Farfus swings for the garage, and he will retire. And so that is another one that we have lost, but it's the first non-Audi retirement. It's the BMW of the man who started on pole here last year, and it's been a bit of an awkward season for Augusto Farfus in the Racing Bart Mampay car. Not been a great season. It's got no better today.
So the heli shot here of Adrian Tombay leading Bruno Spengler, P12, P13 at the moment in this DTM race at the Nurburgring. Still to come, we're off to the Lassersring to Zandvoort. And of course, the grand final to come at Hockenheim. Marco Wittmann in a commanding position at the top of the points going into this race on 95 points. There he is, our race leader, with Matthias Ekstrom, who was second in the points behind him. There's Mike Rockenfeller second in the race. I remind you that Matthias Ekstrom has retired from the race. He's not in it anymore. And there is our 2013 champion, Mike Rockenfeller, we were on board with. Vitaly Petrov, there's Timo Glock, and Gary Paffett.
Glock and Paffett, remember, working their way up the order. And it is 16th place where you find Petrov. So they both want to get past him. But, of course, Paffett wants to get ahead of Glock because that's a proper battle for position. And Mercedes being caught by BMW and Mercedes, this ought to go in Paffett's favour.
No, it does, really.
So out of turn 3 they come. Swing right through turn 4, down to the hairpin. This ought to be where Paffett has a go at Glock, and Glock perhaps will have a go at Petrov. Let's see in a moment as they head down to the braking zone under the gantry, onto the brakes, into the hairpin. And of course Petrov is quite legitimately defending, but Glock goes for the inside line. And bear in mind early on in the race that Glock and Paffett came together on a couple of occasions, and actually Petrov getting in the way of Paffett there, but he tags Glock, who has a real slide. Paffett dives up the inside. Point being, there's not much love lost between Glock and Paffett from early on in the race.
No, and if Petrov was trying to help Paffett there, he kind of hindered him a little bit, really, didn't he? He didn't do that terribly well. Here it is in replay.
A little nudge. Sends Glock sideways, but he recovers from that. And Paffett then makes the line his. Look, 2 wheels up the curb, but he's going for it. And through he goes on the inside. Marco Wittmann, in the meantime, is now extending this advantage. Mike Rockenfeller, I think, has given it his best shot. But once again, Marco Wittmann and this BMW M4 in its first DTM season, this car, just a great combination.
Absolutely, formidable. There is Mike Rockenfeller. Now, last time over the line, there was 4 seconds margin, wasn't there? Now, there is Edo Mortara, who is P3. This is Paffett on Glock. As you rightly said, David, there was no love lost earlier in the race, so this is going to be an interesting overtake, isn't it, between Gary Paffett and Timo Glock. It is back there for P16. So again, from the heli there, giving us some great shots through the cut through. Glock in the Deutsche Post BMW, Gary Paffett in the Euronics Mercedes.
Now they work their way downhill, heading up towards the NGK chicane. Paffett not close enough to think about making a move here, is he? So Timo Glock hanging on in there, but you've got these two drivers who are both stars in their own right, and they're only squabbling over 16th place. Adrian Tombé's progress, incidentally, now putting him up into 12th. He's on the back of Robert Wickens, as well as Marco Wittmann, who is lapping in the 25s. Now the lap times are going up. The advantage is still in the hands of those on the option tyre. As there, Paffett makes his move on the inside at turn 1.
Absolutely, Paffett, is he going to be... Timo Glock will try and do the switch back, but Paffett executed that absolutely perfectly, didn't he? He'd got that set up from the start-finish straight and down into turn 1. So Gary Paffett goes through and moves up into P16, and Timo Glock moves back to P17. So despite the fact there was no love lost earlier in the race, that was quite a clean manoeuvre, wasn't it, between them?
Yes, it was. Yes, they've kissed and made up, metaphorically. Timo Glock then trying to fight back as best he can, as we're on to now lap 40, and Wittmann is leading by 4.1 seconds. There is Glock in replay, losing out to Gary Paffett. Mercedes goes ahead of BMW. Timo locking up there, scrabbling through the corner. And we know that Augusto Farfus, sadly, is out of the race. Let's hear from him and with Verena.
Very sadly, yeah, the race ended for you. Why did you guys decide to end it now? I mean, you were all the way in the back after the collision with Jamie Green. Why did you have to end the race now?
Well, we kept on running, hoping for maybe a possible rain or whatever. But unfortunately, we realized that the car was not competitive to continue. I mean, I had so much damage that it didn't make any sense to continue, so then we decided to retire. And it's a shame. I think I was doing a good race, and the COVID just cost me my race.
Thank you very much. Back to you guys.
Big disappointment for Augusto Farfus in what has been a big disappointment of a season. And he's not forgotten how to drive. He's a very, very good driver, is Augusto Farfus, having gone from Formula 3000 into touring cars in the 2-litre era many, many years ago, and being initially an Alfa Romeo driver, then a BMW driver, part of the World Touring Car team, and then into the DTM. But up front, Wittmann has just lost 4 tenths to Mike Rockenfeller. interestingly, and 4/10 is a bit of a chunk. So we need to monitor this and see whether this is Rockenfeller having a push or Wittmann may have made a small error somewhere.